morning. Welcome to our live talk program. This is Lloyd here, your host on Revive Reform Radio, doing our live talk program covering natural health on this year, Wednesday morning. Rise and shine and give God the glory. And this morning here, I'm looking at a topic: how to affect my happiness while causing others to suffer in my pursuit of happiness. So, how do we affect our happiness while causing others to suffer while pursuing our happiness or in pursuit of our happiness? So, welcome again. Hopefully, you had a blessed night resting, ready to take on the challenges of this day. Let us pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessings of your word and for the blessings, dear Lord, of knowing thee, the only true God. I pray that you may be with us as we walk humbly before thee, and may you enlighten our minds and our paths, that we may walk in light and not darkness. May you bless us, we pray, for Christ's sake. Amen. So I'm looking at this topic again, and this is important as I continue my theme for this week, which is the talking about the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And so the topic again is how I affect my happiness while causing others to suffer in my pursuit of happiness. And so again, our theme is the mainly looking at the Declaration of Independence, and I'm taking some of the Constitution from yesterday onward. And so the Declaration of Independence is: we hold this truth to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And with that thought is the idea of independence. And with that thought, whether it be independence from a friend who has become a frenemy, whether it be independence from a nation, independence from a marriage, independence from whatever, the moment this concept here of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness become infringed upon, then there's this fight for independence. There's this fight for becoming a people become rebels. People become insurgents. People become freedom fighters, whatever, because it is this natural inalienable right that even God Himself, who is the creator of us all, he protect, because he knows he built this in us. And so then the problem is when a person is pursuing their happiness, because this is a big part of the fabric of America, then what happened with these rights? And so this is the Declaration of Independence, this is where we start, and this is the fabric of America. Now, so the question now becomes, or the issue becomes, that I want to talk about, because I'm talking about happiness for this morning here. So happiness mainly, and liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and life. Well, if you don't have life, then there's no discussion about happiness, right? So this is what I want to talk. So look at this now here. My method of securing happiness can cause me to be depressed, suicidal. So it can cause me to be depressed and suicidal if my methods of securing happiness is me, my purpose in life, the way I live, the way I work, what I do for a living, can cause me to be depressed and suicidal. If the methods are barbaric, cold, selfish, and wicked, right? So when you think about that, because your happiness is tied into how you treat others. Because in order for you to treat me bad, you have to be bad. Now imagine if you treat me bad because I'm being bad, then that doesn't really affect your happiness. It's just going to mess up your day, because you have to react to my bad behavior. But if your method of treating me is barbaric, then you have to maintain that barbarism. So that's going to affect you. But the person doing it might feel like, well, I'm just bad, you know. But it affects them psyche. If your method of is barbaric or cold or wicked or selfish, a selfish person is so focused on themselves that they normally very unhappy. You know, the most unhappy kids, ironically enough, are the kids that are most selfish. They're spoiled. The more parents spoil a child, the more the child become miserable, and the more miserable is the more misery they bring to the parents. So the parents create a circle of firing squad. They shoot themselves in the foot, in other words. So the problem with maintaining a barbaric state for others, this is become the whole crux of the experience, and I would say the United States experience and your experience of this is what you're trying to do. because this concept here of pursuing happiness is laced in everything. Now, the pursuit of happiness is not a part of the Constitution. Now, the Declaration of Independence mentions it, but you don't find it as one part of the psyche or the thinking, it seems, when the Constitution was written. So there is no per se amendment that says this amendment is particularly here to protect your right to pursue happiness. So, with that said, though, it is not constitutionally protected as a right, so to speak, but it is like salt sprinkled on the Constitution and woven into the fabric of America. It is the thing that you observe that one of the things that is a background thing. It's like, you read the Bible and there's certain principles in the Bible. Like if I say to you, the church in the wilderness, somebody said, where's that in the Bible? I don't see it as a upfront, on the surface principle, but it's in everywhere in the Bible. But you'd never notice it if I never said it to you, you probably never even thought about it. Sprinkled there, and it becomes one of the background. The kings are wicked for the most part, and the prophets are righteous. It's sprinkled there, but you don't notice it. It's always there. Money becomes corrupting. Power is corrupting. It's sprinkled there, but you don't probably see it at first. So when you think about it, you think about what is it that make this country the entertainment capital of the world? What is it? Where does this concept come from? What is it that touched the biggest part of, not biggest, a large part of the export is entertainment? Why is it that this is the biggest drug using country in the world, both legal and illegal drugs? What is it? And so somebody said, no, it's not there. It's the Declaration of Independence is a document, was according to most historians, I guess, that the Declaration of Independence does not seep over into the Constitution. Good morning for everybody that joined. Does not seep over to the Constitution. But when you read and when you observe the country, you realize those statements, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is part of like the salt that's sprinkled on everything. And it creates Facebook and Instagram. It creates Facebook, Instagram, all the social media. It creates all the entertainment, all the sports, the biggest, most, because even though you have football or soccer, what you call it soccer, larger, but it is this sports capital of the world. It is a massive, for a country, the amount of money, the billions and billions of dollars. So the pursuit of happiness is not part of the Constitution. So as a result, it's not constitutionally protected. It's like if they say, I think it's on the Statue of Liberty or something, it says, bring me your poor and your destitute and those who are beaten up and bring them to me. Somebody said, that's not in the Constitution. Yeah, but it's the whole concept of America. It is not the natives, but it's those who came to seek fortune and how they did it. So it's there. But somebody's always not there, but it's there. If you want to be silly, it's not there. But if you really seriously and think about it, it's there. Come on over. Come over to make some money. Come be a cowboy and go conquer the West. Right? It's there. It's there. And somebody say, well, you used to watch those cowboy western, cowboy westerns, people always shooting out. That's not part of the Constitution, and that's not part of it. Well, that's the Second Amendment. I'm going to talk about that tomorrow. But it's there. It is part of what make America America. It's as America's apple pie. Is people just do shootout and just blow people away, and then it's been there and always will be there, and it's even the Constitution, right? So there's just some things that is hard to. It's easy to do a monologue. It's hard to do a discussion with certain people because there's always not there. Well, it's there because what we do, what we're known for, is just shooting up people. It's just mass murders and just OK Corral shooting, and it's just part of the fabric of the society. So the pursuit of happiness It's like salt, I think. That's the way I call it. It's like salt sprinkled on the Constitution, sprinkled on the Declaration of Independence, sprinkled on the American psyche, the fabric of the country. So for me, it's there. Some people argue it's not. A good example of this, which is a twisted thought, but see if I can get it off in your mind, right? And see if it makes sense to you. So what if my drug use, right? Remember, my topic is how I affect my happiness while pursuing. So how I affect myself while pursuing my own happiness, but I go at it in a barbaric way. So I read the topic again. How I affect my happiness while causing others to suffer in my pursuit of happiness. This again is part of the fabric of America. We want to be happy, but how we go about it often end up making us unhappy. So what if my use of drugs? So I just pause with that thought, right? So because that's not the full thought. So just think about drugs. Drugs is a beautiful example of this, right? Drugs would be classified as one pursuing their happiness or one trying to pursue something that would make them happier. They're chasing off a high. But as you see the history over and over again with all drugs, it end up taking away the person's happiness. So life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, but that becomes very tricky. You see, it is very tricky, and that's why I can understand why, what we do with this. Because in essence, this is what the government is there for. Because if you listen to my Monday and Tuesday presentations or talk, you see that the kind of environment that was primarily focused on by the writers, primarily of the Declaration, and then those who end up signing on to and writing and debating. A year later, the Constitution, the First Amendment, 1791. A year later, a few years later, I should say. If you look at it a year after the Constitution was written, if you look at the amendments and you look at this whole idea here, they were more focused on economic, political, and religious. So this is why there's no protection for you to take drugs all day long to pursue your happiness. Because the happiness issue was more affected when they were dealing with the monarch, the British monarchy. They were dealing with more issue of economic prosperity and freedom, political and religious. Because remember, the king was the head, he was the military, he was the financial leader, so to speak, the political leader, and he also was the religious leader. He's the head of the church, just like the Pope. And in so that they were limited. They were limited whether they come from the other European countries or they come from Britain. Since a lot of these as founders were British, so to speak, they were dealing with the same thing. So in their mind, and hopefully I can swing that tomorrow, deal with this concept of the economic and then the gun rights. The gun right is minor in my mind. Right? So when you deal with this is how they were viewing it. But here in our modern time, you find that a lot, and in their time, and what they were dealing with, they were still dealing with this concept here of, if you affect me economically, politically, or religiously, you could affect my pursuit of happiness. But in our time now, some of these concept of pursuit of happiness comes with drugs. But as you know, with drug is emblematic of the problem with the pursuit of happiness in multiple different areas. Because I'm pursuing it, but then the drugs become a mess. And the drugs mess me up, or the alcohol mess me up, and it start making me now affecting other people happiness. So that's why this concept of happiness seems to kind of go away. I want to tell you there's other reasons, I think, why it went away. Because it's very tricky. It's there, as I say, salt. It's everywhere in our society. But oftentimes, if we pursue happiness a certain way, we end up taking away other people's happiness, and we ultimately make ourselves depressed and suicidal. Because we can pursue happiness in a way, whether it be politically, economically, religiously, socially, so forth, that could affect others negatively. Because notice here, the individual is primarily the focus of the First Amendment in the individual rights. So we become like a very individual society pursuing my liberty, life, and my happiness. And I'm supposed to be able to associate with the other people for my economic benefit, but also I can associate with other people to protect myself, but also to abuse others. And that become part of the concept that we're dealing with. So notice here, I'm going to read it now from a different point of view. What if my use of the war and drugs, both in selling and enforcing, help my pursuit of happiness? So I'm gaining money for my lifestyle. So I twist it there a little bit, right? So imagine now, we know the story of the war and drugs. It's been raging on from, I think, Nixon time, but it really was raging on before that, because when I think it was the narcotics people, I can't remember what the name, they were doing more of their enforcement against alcohol. When they repealed the ban on alcohol and they made it become a states' rights, and then they made it become something that you can control through liquor license, then they move on and say, well, let's go after marijuana and go after other drugs and so forth and so on. And here we are, how many years later, we got the war on drugs, and then from there, the war on drugs became this pursuit where you have the DEA, and they're working internationally, because now people internationally try to make money off American who are pursuing them happiness, and they become a big drug use in society. But what ended up happening, you could make money by shipping the drugs, say, in the black community, and then make the money off the black people, then ship it abroad, take that money, because that money is now clandestine money. And you do wars so that you can do more evil, war and drugs, and so forth and so on. So it become complicated and silly. But what it is, that become part of the fabric of how we function. We are pursuing our happiness, but part of the pursuit of happiness, we can do illicit activity. The illicit activity I do in pursuit of my happiness is to basically secure my happiness, but I'm causing others harm. Then that affect me, because now in order for me to do this, I have to become cold and heartless. I have to become purely wicked and dark. And I have to abuse those who are less fortunate. And so I think that again creates part of the fabric of a society that needs more drugs, more whatever, to calm those demons that I'm creating. So it's the same thing can happen with, likewise, the war. There's wars. Because what is wars? Wars is just a tool. You can use it to protect yourself as a defensive mechanism, but you can use it as an offensive mechanism to take property. Wars of conquest. So you create a war machine, and the war machine benefits certain people. So then if you create a war machine, you have to create a propaganda machine. But if you create a propaganda machine like the Enquirer, which I'm switching it there, then what you're doing, you're creating a war machine. Then you now have to go feed that war machine. So you have to be dark in your soul. So you're going to need some drugs to quiet all that darkness. Same thing with slavery. What was slavery? It was many of the founding fathers were slave owners, and it was their way of pursuing happiness. Because if you're a slave owner, you have all these female slaves that you can continuously rape, or you could just call it you having sex with them. You can abuse people so you can get more work out of them for limited money, less money. Because you have to feed them. So you just have to take care of them to some degree. But you're taking care of them with the bare minimum just to keep them alive for as long as possible, so that you can get as much out of them without giving them back any return for their work. And you can brutalize them and whatever. But for you to do this now, you have to become a dark individual. So then now, you yourself is affecting your own happiness in your pursuit of happiness. You think about Jim Crow. For Jim Crow, you constantly have to be doing everything, number one, to prove that these people are less than, and to prove that they're deserving of being segregated. And you can say it is in your First Amendment, because remember, I read it again. The First Amendment gives you freedom to gather together or associate with others in groups for economic, political, and religious purpose. So you can segregate in church, you can segregate for business, you can segregate for political reasons, you can do redlining, you can do no, you can, it's there but it's not there. But you can say, well, yeah, the Constitution tell me I can be away from these people. So if you notice there, you're pursuing your happiness and you're saying it's really legal what you're doing because I'm supposed to be able to associate with who I want to associate. No problem. I actually believe in that. But now you're causing others to can't again thrive financially or economically, politically, or religiously because you have to sabotage them. No, you don't have to, but that's how it ended up working out. So you limit sabotage. You basically, for 100 and something years, really, Black Americans have been under the mark of the beast, a soft version of the mark of the beast. I'm going to say it's not 100%. Yeah, sure. But it's still a soft version because you're economically being limited to buy or sell, to physically move around, to physically participate in the economy, to affect the churches, affect everything. You're limited. So that is what you do. But in order to do that, what I'm trying to say, doesn't get it. You now have to be of a certain mode in your thinking and in your emotions on a regular basis. In other words, in order for you to keep slaves, you have to maintain a state of barbarism, of the crudest. Ellen G. White says slavery in America was taken to a level of barbarism never seen in the world before. It was a system that was so Think about even Jim Crow. The apartheid system came to America to study what they were doing to Black America in order to create and to build that system in South Africa, the apartheid system. It became a study, became something that you have to say. They have perfected it. And I can't remember what it was. They went to another country also to see what they were doing with their oppressive way to figure out to perfect their oppression of the South Africans. So it became, so imagine you have to have some of the darkest, most sinister minds. So that's why I now like, to me, I say pursuit of happiness becomes salt that is sprinkled on the fabric of America. But also the depression and suicide becomes salt. It is like salt. It flavors it. Because in order for you to pursue happiness in a certain way, you could do it. But what does that do for your soul? It blackens your heart. Your heart becomes black as tar. And you're not even doing anything. You're not coloring it. The coloring is that maintain that barbaric state. Because remember, think about redlining. I remember when I was fresher here, fresh meat. And I remember this deacon from one of the church I was going, he was explaining to me, we were getting into a discussion. He was talking about how he was in Patterson. He was a gentleman from, I think, Nigeria, and his wife. And so they immigrated here, working here. And it was I think it was Patterson. And he says his his two sons were getting into a lot of problems. And he said he just wanted to move to another area of a more suburban area. So he says somehow he ended up in Freehold and he got a real estate agent and he said he want to buy in that area. So I said, what happened now? His aim was leave Patterson, go to an area that he wouldn't be running into a lot of, his kids could get different influence in suburbia. So I say he went with this white real estate agent, and what the agent did for him, he said he brought him into the hood side of the town. So, in most American towns, if you're from outside of America, there's the borough and then there's the township. And so one is black and more the black people, not all black people, more the blacks. And one is mostly white and more affluent. So he said when she brought him into town, what she did, she took him to the edge of the black area and brought him through the white area. So she drove him a certain way and she would always bring him that way. So he said he didn't really know where he was at. So he was trying to escape the hood and she kind of bring him to the hood side of the area. And then his sons got back into the same influence and yada, yada, some jail sentence and all that. And so they still have freedom of choice, but it's just he had sacrificed to make a certain move, and she basically blows money. He didn't get what he wanted. You see, that's unfair. But then I'm thinking about it later on. I'm thinking, what what is she? What is she? And this didn't come at me because you're fascinated with the person telling your story. So you're not meditating on what the other implications of the story. But as somebody is interested in psychology, social behavior, social construct, you think about it and you say, what is her soul like and her mind like? How is her husband experience with her? How is her kids experience with her? Are they happy? Are they having a great time with this lady? Because just think about it. She had to know, and she had to know that she now. I'm sure he probably told her the experience and said, "This is what I'm trying to do," because she's specifically driving through, and I know the town, I know the road he live on, well familiar with that area. So I said, yeah, I see how you could get duped. It is such a easy trick. But you're here, and the moment you come on this side of how most American cities are, you cross over to this side of the road, boom, you're in a different area, a different township, different school. So you just one street over, and you land in a different school, right? So anyhow, so imagine our soul how it has to be, because she now have to know driving him, tricking him. I know, boom, I'm gonna land you over here. You're gonna get a different school, different everything, and you don't know what I'm doing. Because number one, you are foreign to the physical town and foreign to the country, so you don't understand. And that's what makes it interesting, because I think it's even more interesting. At least for me, it's more interesting as a person that's never born here. So the experience is different because you're not used to people behaving like that. You're just used to people behaving like that bad, because they're bad, but not behaving bad because they're targeting you because of your physical skin color. So you watch it and you're saying, wait a minute, but what does that have to do with it? What is her soul like? Can she even serve God? I know that you can go to church and be a church attendee, but you can't really be serve God. What is her prayer like? Did she pray that night and say, thank you, Jesus, for giving me the strength to lead that black person and trick him and make a fool of him because, he's trying to get something that is for us. He want to get into what is for us. It's ours. You gave it to us. Just like the Jews. This the number one supporters of the Jews to push out Palestinians is the American Christians. So they really believe in this. They believe that this is my land and it was given to me by God. So notice the redlining. So you have to have a dark soul to do this, right? Because you now have to maintain. So that now affect I believe, your psyche, the rates of suicide, because they would normally focus in America on the rate of homicide, the black and black crime. But they never talk about the massive, much larger rate of men killing themselves, especially men committing suicide. Because when you talk about it, you say, well, why everybody's so depressed? But when you do things like this, I believe you end up depressed because you're maintaining wickedness, hate. You're maintaining oppression, abuse. You have to maintain a level of dishonesty because it's not like you're doing it that you're being honest. You're just saying, look, we prefer you not to be over here. And the person, okay. You're tricking people and lying to them. You know the story where the banks wouldn't give certain loans to certain zip code and so forth and so on. And they only like in the 2000s and stuff before the crash, they gave it to black people, but they gave them subprime loans that had, adjustable interest rates and just crash them again. So even when they do give it to them, they do abuse them. So it's fascinating, but you have to have a dark soul because you're making a person think, oh yeah, I'm good. I'm not. I'm gonna do you right, and you're lying the whole time. So you have to maintain a level of lying. You can't ever be honest in a system like that. So that's why I believe again a lot of this darkness. And so notice here the pursuit of happiness. But in my pursuit of happiness, I have to be dark and sinister, and it end up creating more depression, more drug use, because honesty can never be there. Notice here, taxation without representation. See, you got to know that you're tricking people. You got to know that you have a master plan. People don't want to talk about the Jesuits and Freemasons, and they're there, and they're part of this problem. But just think about the whole general deception. Everybody that came at a certain point from Europe, they get acreages. But blacks never got the acreages that were promised them. But you had to pull a fast one. So then you darken your soul. And then you turn around and say, well, they didn't economically pull up themselves. So you Jim Crow them, you slaver them, you redline them, you taxation without representation, you Black Street Wall Street, you Black Wall Street them, you do all these things and say, hey, you guys not striving financially. Yeah. I mean, if you keep ripping me off, you give me all these subprime loan in the last, before this one coming, the last financial crash, and you say, hey, look, you fail again. Man, you keep failing. Why you keep failing? I'm the key. Notice here, the blacks were the ones who driving the buses and had to go to work in the opening outbreak of COVID-19. So they died at higher rates because they had higher response. And then they say, oh, well, it's just they're vitamin D deficient. They don't talk about that they had to be on the buses and subways. And they had to take mass transit and still keep the economy going. Blacks and Hispanics. So you say, you just whatever. But you don't say, well, if you hit people with autoimmune disease and cancer, they're going to drop like flies just the same way. And so life keep working. So if you see this is the soul of the human being. So I'm pursuing happiness, but I must say to you this. The method of how I pursue happiness will affect me greatly. The method. You and I have to be careful that we don't pursue happiness by making sure others are unhappy. Making sure that you don't pursue happiness by depriving others of life. By making sure that somebody is not happy and can't pursue their happiness. Because if this is your method of pursuing happiness, you're taking away somebody's right given to them by God. If somebody can't be free and locked up in prison because they didn't do a crime, or because you create these silly laws about drugs, and all it was to fund wars and to block up black people in prison. Yes, you might do it and you might say, well, I have money. But you don't know that you're wretched, poor, miserable, blind, and naked. You shouldn't do it. I shouldn't do it. Notice here again my two main texts for this week. Notice it says in Proverbs 14, verse 34, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. So it reproaches the nation. It's a black mark on the nation because it becomes a thing that is like salt. It just flavors. It brings out the flavor. Salt in itself is just that's what it does. And when you have a sin that a nation keep tinkering with and excusing, because again, if 1 million people say, we want to get over here and make money, go ahead and make money. But why are you making money have to affect how other people make money and pursue? You pursue your happiness, but you don't have to harm me to pursue happiness. Think about the opiate crisis. What did the opiate crisis taught us? All it taught us was that somebody was going to pursue their ability to make money and to be free. But what did they do? They took away a lot of people's life. And it's one thing for somebody who want to be, as I say, a druggie. They want to be stronger than drugs. And no matter what you tell them, even before they look, I want to be high every day. I want to be numb. But it was one thing where the doctors now, knowing that they were going to get people hooked. Because the one thing in the beginning, doctor didn't know. And 2 weeks later, the patient get hooked. I didn't know the patient was going to be hooked on some opiate because of painkiller. But as this thing raged on, they see all these people hooked on these drugs. And they kept on prescribing because it's going to make them out of money. Some of these doctors were getting kickbacks, as you can see documented. So he's pursuing his happiness, but he's causing a lot of pain and suffering. And again, you can see this is part of the fabric. It's woven. It's this constant, I need this at whatever cost. You can see this with the COVID-19. You can see Texas and Florida like, we need to open up because we need to protect the business people, and we're willing to cause some people to die. But we have to protect the economy. And then the people start dying, and you say, well, isn't part of the economy the people that that could die? isn't keeping people healthy part of the economy? But you see, it is part of the fabric of the conversations that we have. We're willing to have others suffer so that I can make money. In Isaiah 58, verse 1, it says, Cry aloud and spare not. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet and show my people their transgression and the house of Jacob their sin. Not the best discussion because, as I say, nobody want to have this concept of a petition for the government of the redress of grievance. Nobody to tell them that they're doing something wrong. But that's part of the life. I say this to you in Matthew 7, verse 12. Matthew 7, verse 12. So therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do you even so to them. For this is the law and the prophet. I think this was one of the things on the text I actually never heard in a serious way. I never ever heard a preacher, literally, all the years in church preach this text, honestly. When you know something was wrong, when you would go amongst people who's supposed to be into the Bible, not the secular people. I understand. I get the secular people and the fake Christians, but people claiming to be in the Bible. And this text wasn't a big text. They'll tell you that the heavy hitters, the meat of the Bible is prophecy. And I was thinking, these people are lost. Well, you follow Jesus and the main teachings in the Bible is prophecy. Main teachings in the Bible is what Jesus says. That's it. Matthew, Mark, Luke, John. Everything else is good, is profitable, good for doctrine and for learning and reproach and to growth. But the main teaching of the Bible, the moment somebody starts to tell you main teaching of the Bible is something else other than the teaching of Christ, you should just walk away. They're being silly. The main passage of scripture I understand in the Bible is John chapter 4. The interview Christ have, or the conversation with the woman at the well. It is just replete with, because the main thing in the Bible is how to be saved. It's not all the other stuff. All the stuff is important, but it's just not a pale in comparison to if you learn all of that stuff and you're lost you lost the kingdom and you go to hell. So here I read one of the principles of the Bible that is, other than love to God, is to love your fellow human being. But yet I wouldn't hear sermons on this. And I realize that's part of the problem. Because my happiness should not infringe upon your happiness. That is the Constitution. It is your individual right to pursue happiness, to have liberty, and to have life. But that should not affect me. That should never affect anybody else. There should have been no law ever, period, the moment the Declaration of Independence was. All slaves should have been let free. If there's any country that should have practiced no oppressive methods, it should have been America. It should have been clear that this principle here of the Lamb, Jesus Christ, should be the governing principle. No, most actually, we probably wouldn't be here. Jesus would have come. So I take that. This is the problem of humanity. Is people want to pursue their happiness at my expense. They want to do with me fair and do just and do balance. They want to get something from me, but they want to get it at my hurt, especially without my consent. You will call that rape. You call that theft. So I'm going to read it again. Therefore, all things. What? All things. None of this redlining stuff would have ever gone on if the Christian church, especially the Southern Baptist Church, the church that has the evangelical churches, notice they should have been upfront and said, look, we follow Jesus. Or we're going to tell you that we promote here that therefore all things, if they were following Christ and they were servants of the Most High God, they could not have led out with all the things that they did over the years. Because again, I'm going to read it to you. Therefore, all things whatsoever you would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. For this is the law and the prophets. So just in case you miss it, what it's all about. There's no way. There's no, I shouldn't say there's no way. It might be a way in the sense of the person have the lost temporary control of themselves. And they're like, oh, okay, sorry. Or you have a redress of grievance. You come to them and say, hey, look, I'm actually feeling pain here. And they say, oh, no, sorry. I would not want somebody to cause me pain. Right? And if this was the case, it wouldn't be. And I'd observe in the church, they don't talk about it. They talk about doctrines all day long. And if you even preach doctrines and some prophecy, they'll say, man, you woke. You present truth. You radical there, bro. I'm like, what is radical about this? I think this teaching is more radical than anything else in the Bible. Because I'm considering me. You see, it's all things. Now somebody say, well, what about the police? Could the police enforce? Absolutely. But it says enforcing because somebody's out of control. Out of control, they're doing crime to others. This is not what they would want to do to them. They're just doing to them. If they're out of control, they would probably expect them to be treated the same way. See, all things. So a lot of these discussions we have, it's very simple. If we go back and we look at it, if this was a teaching and this was the meat in these churches, could they affect people with their economic, political, or religious purposes? No. Because I want to be free to worship God the way I want to worship. So I'm not going to affect a Muslim. I'm going to affect a Mormon. I'm going to affect a Catholic. I'm not going to affect a Southern Baptist. I will go that far as even saying I wouldn't even affect them. Like they want to preach what they want to preach. It's not a problem. Whatever they want to preach. Oh, wait a minute. No, they're going to affect me. Well, it becomes a problem. I have to go protest. That's why we're here. That's why somebody will be like, why are you here talking about it? Because if you affected me, I'm off to preach. Because, again, I'm off to protest. We're Protestants. That's what we do. We believe in protesting wickedness because we know it don't feel good. So the war on drugs, I would never have done it to other somebody, nobody else. Because the whole idea is, I would say, I don't want somebody to hook me up on drugs so that they can make big money. So, I'm not going to hook nobody up on drugs. I'm not going to partake of it. Somebody say, because I've heard people say, well, if I don't sell it, somebody's going to sell it. Let them sell it. I ain't going to sell it because I ain't going to do that to nobody because I don't want nobody to do that to me. I don't want to be no crack hole. As well as a crack hole. I don't be giving people no blowjob for money so I can get crack. So I'm not going to do that to anybody. Let's make it real. I don't want to do that to people. And I wish somebody had preached this in churches. Somebody say, why would somebody want to preach this in church? Because we need to preach it in church. We're not supposed to do this. Why am I going to do slavery so that I can make money? I'm going to have to get up every day and beat people up and abuse people and chain people and treat people like animals so I can make money. No. This should be in a regular sermon in church. They never preach it because they're in rebellion. Jim Crow. Why would I want to do Jim Crow? So I can sleep with these black women, create these mulattoes, and then I can't eat at the water fountain. So I can be all having sex with a person and I can't drink at the water fountain. Drink at the water fountain. It's foolishness. It's hypocrisy and wickedness. And that's why so many people are depressed and suicidal. Because their life is just, they're like, I can see what I said, man, just put an end to this because I'm crazy. Sin makes you crazy. Redlining. I'm redlining. What's the point? I have to be able to be, I would have to do to somebody what I wouldn't want them to do to me. It would burn. Notice, and then people, they get burnt when people do things like that to them. And they get mad. And I'm like, I always remind people, say, your cancer doctor is going to give it to you. Your oncologist, like, say it pretty. Because you're doing to somebody what you wouldn't want them to do to you. So sooner or later, they're going to give it to you. And when they give it to you, it going to burn you because you'll be like, man, this burns. I think, to me, anytime somebody suffer or making others suffer, man, go enjoy your suffering, man. Enjoy, man. You should get extra too. So you can feel what it feels like. So you can say, oh, that's an interesting feeling. Like, oh, you're feeling bad? Good for you. No, you understand what you do to people. And that's, to me, is what's supposed to happen. You do unto others as you like them to do unto you. So you like to suffer? Enjoy your suffering, man. You like people to be in pain, man, enjoy your cancer. All right, notice here, taxation without representation. You can't do this to people. unless you just have a blackened soul. You know, you do Black Wall Street. So when you financially destroy, you can go online, just go on YouTube, you can watch, you can sit there for hours watching videos of some of the most historically racist areas in Mississippi, Alabama, Kentucky, West Virginia, stuff, and just watch the economy plunge. And yet there's still, the economy is falling apart, and their cities look like Detroit and some parts of Chicago and Camden and Newark. But yet, if you go to them and you say, "Hey, bro, how you gonna vote?" They say, "We gonna vote more tyranny." I'm like, really? Yeah. We gonna vote this guy called Donald Trump in. We're gonna vote Donald Trump in, and he's gonna put kids in cage, and we gonna love that because we're doing unto others as how they like to do unto us. You know, I was watching something yesterday on YouTube, and they're covering is a documentary that just went up. They're covering, you know, all these years, almost 4 years later, after the Donald Trump win, Donald Trump had run this piece where he had said, they had showed this piece where Hillary Clinton was saying the coal job not going to come back, it's done. So they immorally cut the clip, and then they tell people in the coal country that Donald Trump is going to bring back the coal. Well, now about 4 years later, almost 4 years later, the coal jobs, they're still leaving, they're still shutting down. And the job's not coming back, just like what Hillary said. And so the documentary was covering that. And I thought that was fascinating because sometimes you kind of move on with your life and you forget, yeah, and I remember those videos. They made it look like, yeah, the job's going to come back. Vote for this guy. Jobs never came back. And now they're in worse situation. I'd be like, how long you going to keep voting for this type of foolishness? It is just a ploy. Life has moved on. Technology has moved on. But you do unto others as how you like. So remember, if years later, if life lasts and we see even Donald Trump kids getting a certain beat down, you just always have to remember what he did to poor people in Kentucky and West Virginia. It fools them, made a fools of them, and made them vote for their own demise. But what goes around comes back around. And God says he'll make it happen to the kids, even to the third and fourth generation, because they're in the same mindset, crooked and wicked. Notice here, Black Wall Street. You will never do Black Wall. You don't go take these people off economically. Notice again, the First Amendment says it also guarantees an individual right to physically gather and associate with others in groups for economic, political, and religious. If you look at Black Wall Street, that's what it was. They were progressing and prospering economically, politically, and religiously. What they did is burn it down and bomb it, destroyed it with the help of the government. And they did that multiple places with the help of the government. You would never have done that. Never have done that. And they say, oh, it was because this black guy did something with this black girl, so you just destroyed the whole town. But all the years of white men raping, having a grand old time, raping all these black women, no set of rape probably on the face of the planet, like what went on for all those years. And there was no economic damage. So if you see, well, I'm not saying there was none, because, you know, the civil rights, God had to settle some scores, and he settled them heavily. So you see this, and you see this setup and this build-up, and you see the thing where there was no way they were preaching, and still no way they're preaching Christ in these churches. Oh, we have the gospel, we are evangelical. What? You have to be crazy to believe that. What gospel? I'm reading again. Therefore, I bet they're not even familiar with this text. They probably never ever heard a sermon about this text. Therefore, all things whatsoever, yea, would that men should do to you. All things whatsoever. You think about it, whatever it is. You want men to accuse you of stuff and then hang you in a tree? Don't. If you want that, then do it to people. If you don't want it, whatever. So when you see people like blowing their heads off, like whatever, well, that's the life they live, man. And they were never told from their being children, you don't do this type of wickedness to people. And if you don't do it, then you won't have it done to you. This is the base of Christianity. And this is the base where you and I, no matter who we're dealing with, couldn't care less who they are or more who they are. You love them or you don't love them. You always say, I'm going to do to each individual I come in contact with, from those the closest to me to those who are furthest away from me, all the way in China. I'm going to do to them as I would like them to do unto me. I'm going to make sure my life is, I'm not going to affect them in any negative way. Do ye even so to them? For this is the law and the prophets. So you read the Bible, you get confused. What is the Bible talking about? It's just simply telling you, don't be a rapist. Don't be a murderer. Don't be a thief. Don't be covetous. Don't be hating on people. Don't lie on people. And it just that's what we do. Honor your father and mother because you wouldn't want. Simplest thing for a child is you honor the father and mother. As in the Lord. That means that not to honor them to go rob banks. Don't join them to become evil. And the Lord will bless you. So their relief becomes my blessing. You want to solve a lot of the problems of people, especially young people, so depressed and suicidal. Teach them. Your neighbor relief, to relieve the poor and the suffering, will make you happier. But if you keep teaching them that, oh, you just need to be happy, you need to pursue your happiness. Well, where does that stop? We're happiest when we serve, we bless, when we are a blessing, when we are lovable and loving. That's when we're happiest. But the fabric is individualism, your individual right and your individual pursuit, and that nothing should stop you from being happy, even if you have to hurt others. And so he ended up with a lot of people on drugs and the selfishness just there because they focus on me, myself. It is selfishness. We help others to lift their burdens. We don't put burdens on others. The whole structure was to burden these people and still doing it by putting excess burden to support prison wardens and all these things. By putting the burden on these people so they suffer to let us look like we are law and order. And this is not law and order. This is against the law and the prophets. You become the source of others to smile. When they smile, let it be you. A lot of people are depressed because they can't even wave to you. They can't even make you put a smile on your face. And so they need drugs to make them smile because they don't understand. If you would stop and just say, look, I'm going to make you smile. I'm going to bring happiness to you. Imagine if that real estate agent, always fascinating, these thoughts sometimes come back in my mind. And sometimes I forget. But imagine that real estate agent to that guy that I told you about in the beginning of the presentation. He had make the guy happier and help him have a better outcome. Oh, she would be loved. Now, I know probably she don't want to be loved by some black guy from Nigeria, but she would be so loved by that family and appreciate. But the problem, I know, is that if he's happy with the service and he have a better outcome and he gets what he paid for, got what he paid for, he probably tell other people, hey, look, you need to come down here and find this lady. She going to hook you up. And then they're going to be like, oh, there's going to be more black people in our community. But she'd be happier. She'd be loved. She'd be appreciated. But now what she's going to be thinking, oh, when they figure out what I did to them, they probably hate my guts. Not knowing that is not so much the issue of hating her guts. It's the issue of, man, she caused this guy so much pain. She added to his problem. He's trying to unravel a problem, and she just helped sank him. You're like you're drowning, and somebody say, here's a life raft or the whatever that round thing, the donut, and they throw it to you, and all of a sudden it's built by lead. You grab it and it sink you even more. You're thinking, man, what a wicked people, but you're drowned. And that's what they did. They just, it's like the feather that broke the camel back. It's just, but this was a lead they dropped on him. It just popped him. And I felt bad for him. I was like, man, this is my introduction. Hey, look, this is what we do over here. And I'm like, man, that's wicked. So you become the source of other people's smile. You become the source of trying to teach the ignorant instead of trying to defund the school districts and make them more ignorant. And they're in a problem and you're making the problem worse. As I say, you have others out there saying, oh no, we need to fix the home. The home is already messed up. Do what you can to help outside of that. You become their source of encouragement. People are depressed. People need a hand up, a leg up. And when we push them down more, we beat them down more, what are we doing? Somebody's already beaten up. History of beaten up. Generations of being beaten up. And then we come along and we just beat them up again. And just cause more people to cry and suffer. We are here to bless others in spite of what these churches out there, because they don't believe in no Matthew 7:12. They don't believe in that. They don't believe in no do unto others. Don't make them fool me. How long I've been living, I don't see it. Never heard it. What they're talking about is prosperity, making more money. But that's the problem. That's the pursuit of happiness. Think about it. It is here that we came up with this concept of the prosperity gospel. No, it was in the Catholic system, but we just, I guess, clean it up and modernize it and make it like apple pie. We become the source of making somebody know you're welcome. Not just saying the word. Man, person know you're welcome. We're going to always welcome you and show you a good face. I tell people this is a guarantee, at least we strive to. You're always welcome to come amongst us. Not, why are you here? You should get out from here. Don't come. Like what? Are you happy like that? That's why we ain't never gonna run out of producing Prozac and Zoloft and all these mental health drugs. You act like that, you must be depressed. Oh, depressed people will act like that. Come on now. I'm gonna encourage you, never do that. You become the source of people's comfort. People feel comfortable and be comforted. You should be like a sofa. And somebody see you, they say, man, you remind me of a sofa. When they sit down and, oh man, this feels so comfortable, like a posturpedic bed, like a whatever bed. I don't know what that's a real high-end bed that you lay down. It's like one of these hospital beds that one of these people working for Trump wanted to buy used, so you can have a nice, comfortable used bed from not a hospital but a hotel. I think, why would somebody buy a hotel bed used? But those hotel beds sometimes they're so comfortable, and you should be like that for people. You should be the one that treat people hospitable. That's how you get happiness. You see, all of this is how you pursue happiness. When you're kind to people, that's how you pursue. You don't pursue happiness by smoking weed or taking crack or cocaine or taking opiates. You pursue happiness by making others be happy. No, not every rich chick can make me happy, because some people, nobody gonna make them happy because they've made up their mind they will not be happy, and that's them. But if somebody's seeking happiness, you should be their source. You should be the source of their kindness. You should be the source of showing mercy. So that's why we over here, we're with the poor and the marginalized. We're with those who are being oppressed. We join up with them. That's who we support. That's who we're for. We're not for the evildoers who have crashed the economy and gotten their tax break for the rich. And we're not for them. And keeping Mississippi and Alabama, poor. I tell anybody from Mississippi, all of these states, these Appalachian states, and so on, we love you more than they love you. But I know it's hard because they won't believe it. Because they say, well, the color of your skin, I'm not going to believe it. Well, I tell you, we're going to treat you good because we believe in Matthew 7:12. We strive, at least, in all our effort, to do unto others as they would like us to do unto them. And we believe in that. We believe in forgiveness. Forgive others for the evil they've done to us. They have despisefully used us and persecute us. But because we believe, we all is in this thing together. We all have been abused and bullied and treated bad. So as I say, that's why I join with those who've been treated bad. It's just simply, and if you've been treated bad, we're with you. You become the source of others' joy. And you bless others. You don't be a curse to others. You don't be a cursed person. What we see here is what the nation need to repent of. And this will save a lot of souls from suicide, depression, feeling like they're garbage. Because if you treat people like garbage, then you become garbage. Because you're getting what you did to others. You treat people good, then you become good. We get what we do to others. Christ says, you shall be judged by the way you treated others. You judge others as such, the judgment going to come on you a certain way. We want to be a blessing, be blessed. Bless others. And God will bless you. Let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, I thank you for the blessing of your word, for the blessing, dear Lord, of conversion, for the blessing of knowing Jesus, that we might be like him. May we, dear Lord, be a blessing and bless others. This is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen. Thanks for being with me here on Revive Reform Radio. Looking forward to talking to you again live tomorrow morning, where we should talk about current events. Until then, I pray that you may continue to walk with the King.